get me wrong, it's kind of cool, I just don't get who the SupaBoy is supposed to be for. If you're into portable, old school gaming, as I am, I've mentioned my Game Boy collection back there, you might have come across a device called the SupaBoy. It's basically a portable Super Nintendo made by a company called, that company right there, because I forget the name right now. So, these guys make the SupaBoy, basically, like I said, a portable Super Nintendo. You put in the actual cartridges, the actual Super Nintendo cartridges, and then you get to play a Super Nintendo game on a quote-unquote portable gadget. I wouldn't really call the SupaBoy portable. It's kind of, let's put it this way, it's comparable to the Game Gear, which again, I guess it's technically portable, and technically right is the best kind of right, but it's not exactly the kind of thing you're going to be carrying around in your pockets, unless you're walking around in cargo pants. Some people do. One thing I do like about the SupaBoy is the fact that it kind of looks like a Sega Nomad. The Nomad was a console that Sega put out that was basically a portable Sega Genesis. It worked exactly like the SupaBoy works. You'd put in the actual Sega Genesis cartridges in, and, well, it was huge, and you could actually plug it into the television, so technically you could buy this instead of buying a Sega Genesis, and you'd get the home console and the portable factor. If you think about it, that is kind of the same idea behind the Nintendo Switch. I just don't see why somebody would go with the SupaBoy to fulfill their portable Super Nintendo needs. This thing is massive, even bigger when you put in the cartridge. The battery, from what I've read online, doesn't last that long. The screen is also not that great. It's just, it would make a lot more sense for you to just buy, say, a modded PSP. I have two here. They're great. I think the main target audience for the SupaBoy would be the collector, the person who still buys a whole bunch of Super Nintendo games. For somebody who is already heavily invested in buying old Super Nintendo cartridges, this makes a lot more sense than downloading the ROMs. I get that. But this is kind of a high price to pay to get the authenticity of playing the real games. If you are a Super Nintendo collector, I have to assume you probably have an actual Super Nintendo at your disposal already. And if you already have the cartridges and everything, maybe it's just me, and I know the law might not agree, but if you have the actual cartridges, I don't think it's that immoral to then download ROMs to play on, say, a modded PSP. Some people have pointed out the PSP is not going to run certain games so well, namely the ones that have the FX chip, like Mario Kart or Yoshi Island F-Zero. I see that point, but one, the emulation on the PSP is good enough, and two, that's just a handful of games when you consider this thing costs $150. That's a lot to pay for just those games. I'll take subpar emulation on the PSP when you consider all the other benefits that platform has over something like the SupaBoy. It's just, again, I love the look. It looks exactly like if Nintendo had put out something like the Sega Nomad. That's exactly what it would have looked like, and I guess in 1995 I would have been a lot more forgiving. Considering, however, that I can have all of my Super Nintendo games on these two tiny things, this one, it's the size of a cell phone, this thing right here. It's hard to justify. Plus, this was $50. I don't really 100% even buy the whole authenticity argument, because you are buying a Super Nintendo clone, essentially. So, But I'm curious, is this, when you see the SupaBoy, maybe you never even heard of this thing before, when you see the SupaBoy, does this seem like something that you would want to buy? Or I think the biggest thing with the SupaBoy is that it's a portable, but not really, because not only is it really bulky, I could not see myself carrying this anywhere, let alone actually bust this thing out in public and play with it. I don't know, maybe I'm just being silly, but I would feel kind of stupid playing with this huge thing out in public. Maybe it's just me. But I'm very curious about what you think. I'm not sure if there are many SupaBoy owners in my viewership, but if there are, I'm curious. There's probably, because you have it and I don't, there's probably some part of the experience that you value that I'm just not seeing, because I never had one. I've played on one, never actually owned one. So let me know. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy, and I'm done. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I don't even think downloading ROMs, playing with emulators and all that stuff, I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. Most of these games you cannot get legally through the legal, proper channels. A lot of these games, I can get on certain virtual console like system, I go and buy it. A lot of these games I've bought multiple times. And if I go and buy, like, say, an original cartridge of Super Mario World, Nintendo's not getting a cut of this. Miyamoto's not getting any money. None of the people involved with creating the game that I love are getting anything, really, so fuck it.